Hello， 我是从不道歉的 GM。今天的 GM 陪你看片片系列，要来陪大家一起看的影片是来自一个国外的 YouTuber， 叫做 Austin Sweat。他2天前出了一部影片，叫做 Ranking the 10 Best Starting Fives in the NBA。意思就是先发5人的排名。那废话不多说，我们就直接来看吧。
Number 10, the Chicago Bulls with Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Patrick Williams, and Nikola Vucevic. Listen, these guys only come in at 10 because they have a lot of competition ahead of them. But I really love this lineup, and
我是不知道他前面还有排哪些球队啦。所以公牛目前排第10，我是不知道合不合理。
It's one of my favorites of the entire video. The Bulls were able to do way more this offseason than anyone thought they would. They signed Lonzo DeRozan and got back way more than they should have for Markkanen.
等一下，我想问一下骑士迷，不知道你们对骑士签下 Lauri Markkanen 的感觉是如何？听说骑士的打算是要让 Markkanen 打先发巧前锋，太帅了吧
And it's given them a solid playoff squad for this upcoming year. I'm excited to see what they can all do together, and of course, if they exceed expectations, they will have deserved to rank higher. You know, you gotta be cautious because they're still the Bulls and have still had a terrible track record recently. But it'd be pretty hard to screw this up now because everyone in this lineup can shoot near 40% from 3. They have 2 solid big men in Williams and Nikola that can
Patrick Williams 是能里能外的常人，有这回事？
score on the block or spread the floor. LaVine that can do it all. And I think if it's ever gonna happen, it'll be this season that Lonzo Ball has a breakout year. He could do huge things in this backcourt, and even if not, and he still plays the same at the same pace, they'll still be set.
我是不看好 Lonzo Ball 能做出什么改变啦。不过其实在这个阵容里，我是不认为他在进攻上有需要扛多大的责任，反正就是维持他在鹈鹕时的球风就可以了。
And I don't love DeRozan's game, but his scoring leadership and ability to post up and score to create instant offense that they can use whenever they're going through a slump makes this overall a great squad. Number 9, the Atlanta Hawks with Trae Young, Bogdan Bogdanovic, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, and Clint Capella. And again, they're only at 9 because there's so much competition ahead of them.
这边各位要注意，我们聊的是先发5人哦，跟球队的板凳没有关系。我会倾向把公牛排在老鹰的前面，不过没关系，应该差距不算大。
And this is the same 5 we saw from them last year. And they really didn't make any offseason moves because they didn't need to. But they're still going to seem like a new fresh team because everyone they have is still so young and developing. So we don't necessarily know how much better these players are going to be. They got 5 or 6 guys on this team, all under 25 that could break out at any time. And we saw how good the squad did in the playoffs.
说到去年的季后赛，我觉得很多人应该对老鹰的表现还是抱持着怀疑的态度吧。我觉得目前老鹰的阵容最多打到第2轮。
And they didn't even have their key piece in DeAndre Hunter. They took the NBA champs to 6 games without their best defender. And I'm a huge fan of his. If he continues to develop this season at the same pace, it'll be huge. And their starters are so complete in every aspect. 3 out of 5 of them are excellent shooters from deep. We still have Stockton and Malone 2.0. DeAndre Hunter to be the team's star defensively. Bogdanovic, who I like to think of as a wild card, who can put up huge numbers any night. And Clint Capella, who pairs with Trae nearly as good as Collins does. And for this video, I can't even get started on their bench. But they have nearly just as much talent on it. And if we're including benches, Atlanta would rank much higher because they're one of the deepest teams in the entire league. Number 8, the Boston Celtics.
塞尔提克排第8，各位觉得塞尔提克的先发阵容有到第8吗？是不是太前面了？
With Dennis Schroeder, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Al Horford. And Boston was very busy this offseason. And I've seen a lot of people crapping on the Celtics for some of the moves that they've made, like giving Robert Williams a big contract and trading Kimba for Al Horford.
有人质疑他们休赛期间的操作吗？普遍都是好评吧。续约 Robert Williams 跟换掉 Kemba 都是非常合理的操作啊。
But I don't think I could be too much happier with everything they did. They needed a center and they needed to trade Walker, so it only made sense to get Al, who would fit perfect back in their starting lineup. I never like when a player gets traded back to the same team, especially only a couple seasons later, but given their situation, it made sense. And it couldn't have worked out any better with Dennis Schroeder signing with them. As for Robert Williams, they see him day to day, and the Celtics always have a pretty good eye for talent, so if they believe in investing in him for the future, I'm cool with that. And they did things like losing out on Fournier but get Josh Richardson to make up for it.
我认真觉得 Evan Fournier 的合约溢价了，所以塞尔提克当初没有签下他，我觉得是对的。
And re-sign Marcus Smart, which were both good moves. But okay, enough with their offseason. For this 5 though, like I said, they fixed all their issues and now have Jason and Jaylen still as their stars. Schroeder, who can do it all and play point.
Schroeder 是全能控卫。
so Marcus Smart doesn't have to, which is good because at times it was rough when he did, and Smart's been developing a good amount on offense too.
我觉得塞尔提克的问题是在于说 Jaylen Brown、Jason Tatum 都是非常好的 playmaker， 他们不需要一个控球后卫去帮他们创造机会，可是其他的配角球员他们需要一个控卫去带起他们的进攻，这方面我觉得是塞尔提克需要加强的地方。Dennis Schroeder 他只要顾好自己就好，你不可能期望他去带领球队啊。聪明哥就不用说了，聪明哥他去年证明了他不适合打控球啊，他有防守没错，他也是球队的精神领袖，可是控球真的就不适合他。
So he's a great player to have at shooting guard. And I love them having himself and Jaylen Brown as their two elite defenders. Then Al Horford, who's also good on that end and can tie things all together. I'm just a little worried about them playing kind of small with Jason at the 4 and Horford, who's not an elite rebounder or post-up guy at the 5. But it may or may not work in their favor, so we'll see. Number 7, the Suns with Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, and DeAndre Ayton. Not really much to say here. It's the exact same squad we saw in the finals.
太阳排第7，我同意。我觉得算合理。
But they just played so well there and throughout the postseason, I had to rank them in at least 7. Some might say they should be ranked higher since they made the finals, but again, I'm basing it off of the starters, and the Suns were great as a whole, but some teams have starters that I'm a little bit more of a fan of. I'm excited to see how much better if any of their young guys in Booker, Bridges, and Ayton come out though. Personally though, I think they'll show huge improvements, because the game's now probably slowed down a lot to them after experiencing what a playoff run and finals is really like. But yeah, I also don't expect CP3 to drop off.
这点我是抱持着不同的意见。我非常不看好 CP3 能够健康的打完新的赛季，因为如果你去翻他过去5年的出赛记录，你就会发现，扣除掉去年在太阳还有前年在雷霆的出赛记录，他前面3个赛季没有一次出场超过70场比赛。所以36岁的他能够出赛几场，我觉得会是一个很大的疑问啊。
Really any. I think he's going to be just as good as he was last year, but we just gotta hope that a big injury doesn't happen as he starts to get older and older. Number 6, we have the Miami Heat with Kyle Lowry, Victor Oladipo, Jimmy Butler, PJ Tucker, and Bam Adebayo.
等一下，热火排第6，我是没有太大的意见。可是为什么他把 Oladipo 摆在先发？我现在是在看科幻频道吗？还是怎样？他难道不知道热火在休赛期间砸了大钱在 Duncan Robinson 身上吗？ Oladipo 如果我没有记错是用最低薪资签下来的吧，所以怎么可能让 Oladipo 打先发，然后 Duncan Robinson 从板凳出发？不可能啊。
And this is one of my favorite 5s in the league. The Heat came in under the radar and created an entirely new starting 5 that has huge.
热火休赛期间的动作不算低调吧？他们砸了多少钱啊？靠，全部梭哈了欸。
Potential. I think these guys are going to finish with a top 3 seed in the East as a whole, especially with some of the guys they still got coming off the bench. But this is just about the starters, and the only thing that worries me here is their 3-point shooting and ability.
不是啊，你把 Duncan Robinson 摆先发，不是就没有外线空间的问题了？原来 Austin Sweat 是科幻频道。
To stretch the floor. Kyle's a good shooter, but Oladipo's not the best. Jimmy isn't good. Tucker's inconsistent, and Adebayo's non-existent from deep. So it may be better off having Duncan Robinson start and Oladipo coming off the bench if it becomes a problem. But even then, this squad would still be a top 10 starting lineup. They just need the offense to be there. They got a ton of defense, but 4 guys who sometimes struggle on the other end.
5个有4个进攻堪忧。Jimmy Butler 只是3分没有很准而已，他的进攻有到堪忧吗？Bam Adebayo 进攻也没有问题啊，他有抛投，他有中距离，今年说不定又练出了一个什么新的技能，我是不知道他在讲什么啦。
And it's why they don't rank any higher. And if things don't go well when they're actually together, it's why they could deserve to drop in the future on this list. Number 5 goes to the Denver Nuggets with Jamal Murray, Will Barton, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokic.
等一下，他难道不知道新赛季 Jamal Murray 可能要拖到明年才能打吗？金块的先发阵容排不到这么高吧？科幻频道，科幻频道。
And there's only one guy in this lineup that's ever been an all-star, but it's so perfectly assembled that they at least deserve this spot. Murray and Jokic are great together, Barton's a go-to scorer, Aaron Gordon's the perfect defender that they desperately need in this lineup, and MPJ's a perfect scorer to spread the floor and be a 3rd or 4th option to score when needed. Plus, he's going to come into this year hopefully more developed.
我是觉得如果今年金块要打出好的成绩的话， Michael Porter Jr. 必须成为在进攻上的第2选择。他讲的好像 Will Barton 是很好的进攻选择似的。不是说 Will Barton 不行，可是论天赋的话，他怎么可能赢得过 Michael Porter Jr.？ 所以不可能把他排在 Michael Porter Jr. 的前面吧。
than last. If everyone stays healthy the whole year, the Denver Nuggets might end up being next year's champs. They need to make some more moves to work on their depth, but I don't think there's anything they could possibly do to make the starting lineup any better. Number 4 is then taken by the Milwaukee Bucks for Drew Holiday, Dante DiVincenzo, Chris Middleton, Giannis, and Brook Lopez. Drew, Chris, and Giannis were the 3.
公路排第4，会不会有点低啊？我不知道，还是要看他前面排哪些球队啦。
Biggest factors in their championships, so obviously they mainly carried this lineup to the number 4 spot. We didn't get to see Dante in the finals, but we know his consistent offense and upper tier defense complements these other 4 pretty well.
DiVincenzo 真的是一个严重被低估的球员啊，他如果能找回受伤前的身手的话，公路真的是不可小觑啊。
And even though Brook's not consistent, he's still obviously a great fit. And you might have thought that since this 5 led the Bucks to the title, that they'd rank in at number 1, but that's not the case because the teams ahead of them all now have players that are injury-free or new lineups that they didn't have last season. Plus, the Bucks had a ton of help off the bench that other teams just didn't, and their bench was a huge part of their success. That's not taking anything away from the starters though. They still have 3 guys that are all top 30.
这点我同意。这边顺便预告一下我的新片啊，预计明后天会出吧，就是现役联盟的 Top 30。我又把字母哥、Holiday 跟 Middleton 都排进前30。
And I don't think they're better than number 3 in the Golden State Warriors though, because they
勇士排在卫冕冠军的前面。科幻频道，科幻频道。
They have Steph Curry, the now healthy Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, and James Wiseman.
Klay Thompson 有马上就要回来打了吗？重点是 Klay Thompson 已经2年没打球了，我们都还没看到他身手怎么样，你就认为他完全康复了？会不会有点太乐观？
They have the big 3 from their best years finally all healthy and back together. And I feel like a lot of people are underestimating them coming back this year. I feel like people aren't taking them as seriously as they should be. This big 3 forever changed the NBA and literally dominated it like no one ever has before. And they still have Andre Iguodala on the team, who was a huge part of their success. But he is much older than he was. But it's okay because they have Wiggins in the starting lineup, and he's much better offensively than Andre was at that time.
可是当年 Iguodala 也不是打先发啊，他不是第6人吗？
Really blew it last season. But if he actually comes out and plays like he should now, then he has potential to be better than any center that this squad has played with.
我觉得他聊勇士的这段稿有点太多如果了，太多假设性的东西了。第一 ，Klay Thompson 要100%的健康，恢复以前的身手。第二 ，Wiseman 要打出他榜眼的身价，这2个都是非常大的不确定性啊。然后他直接把勇士排第3。
Which is why they'll once again be a serious threat. Number 2, I'm going to give it to the Los Angeles Lakers with Russell Westbrook, Malik Monk in the starting lineup. I'm guessing LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Dwight Howard.
Malik Monk 怎么可能会是先发？这跟他热火的那个先发阵容一样云吧？
And I got a lot of problems with this team. I think there's a good chance it's not going to work. With Westbrook playing with these guys, LeBron aging another year, and with Anthony Davis's inability to stay healthy, it leaves a lot to worry about if you're the Lakers. But in the small chance that things all go well, they have 3 starters from their championship roster.
2年前的 Dwight Howard 都没有打先发，今年应该不会让他打先发吧？如果给我猜的话，应该会让 DeAndre Jordan 打假性先发，然后把5号位大部分的上场时间给 Anthony Davis 吧。
Malik Monk, who's a scorer, an excellent shooter to play off their stars, and Russ, who could be a difference maker if used right. And that's not even to mention their bench, who at this point is making them look like the deepest team in the entire league. Listen, in my opinion, this team's got way more talent than last year, but I don't think it's gonna work. I don't think they'll make the finals, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them out in the second round.
他讲的我同意。 第2轮真的不意外啦。
Finally, for number 1, I don't think anyone can deny that the Nets deserve this spot, with the same starting lineup as last year with James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan.
不可能是这个先发阵容吧？应该是 James Harden、Kyrie Irving、Joe Harris、Kevin Durant 跟 Blake Griffin 吧？怎么可能 LaMarcus Aldridge 才复出就让他打先发？这个频道真的太晕了，真的太晕了。What the hell？
And the only thing that can get in this team's way is injuries again, like we saw last season. If healthy, though, I think it's hard to argue that this team would have won it all. They have the most pure talent in their 5 out of any team in the league by far, with 3 superstars all in their prime. KD's the best player in the league.
KD 第1人，各位同意吗？我是把他排在我的第2人。至于第1人是谁，就请看我的新片吧。
Harden's a top 5 to 10 player, and Kyrie's at least top 15. Not even to mention Blake played great and took another pay cut to stick in Brooklyn. But it is a year later and we still have barely gotten to see them all three play together and see what they could really do. Chances are though, their injuries are all now out of the way and we're gonna get to see them healthy for the majority of this year. So again, they're my bet to win it all this season, and those are my picks for the top 10 starting fives in the NBA today. What are yours? Comment down below and let me know, and I'll catch you next time.
OK， 不知道各位有没有发现一件很神奇的事？为什么名单里面没有爵士队，也没有76人？如果你要说76人因为 Ben Simmons 的关系，你不把他排进前10我都算了。可是为什么前10没有爵士？我完全搞不懂这个逻辑耶。如果给我排的话，爵士至少会有前10吧。毕竟他们去年打出了联盟最好的战绩啊。Where's the respect, you know？ 看完这部影片之后，我觉得自己有点像在看科幻片啊。不知道各位觉得如何？好，那今天的影片就先这样啦，拜。